However, to look at yourself and to see a crutch walking, that's a problem. To say, I didn't get that because I'm black, or I'm Hispanic, or I'm Asian, or whatever, that might be true. That might be true. But let me tell you something. That's no excuse to not keep going forward. That's no excuse to not keep doing your best. You can look back and at every situation be bitter, or you can move forward. No matter what you do, you just keep moving forward.
If you actually took time to learn about how incredible you were, nothing would ever stop you.
As always, you get value. I want you to join this community because we have incredible conversations and so many people need to be a part of a community where you have incredible conversations. So I was sitting here, you know, it's Dr. King's Day. And when I was growing up, Martin Luther King's Day was a very, very big deal. We would sit and read stories of his life. You know, we would sit and watch the video of him speaking at the Lincoln Memorial. We would recite over and over, "I Have a Dream." We'd hear the song by Stevie Wonder. All of those things happened. As I began to get older, it wasn't as predominant. People started to look at the day more so as, I have a day off. I took the family recently. We were down in Georgia, and we had a chance to go by the monument for Dr. King, his burial. And if you haven't been to Georgia, it's powerful because you go into Atlanta and you see right in front of you, in like a floating island, you see the burial spot for Dr. King and Coretta Scott King. And it's an overwhelming experience because you realize that there are two people there that changed history forever. There's streets all across America named after this man. There's a holiday celebrated for this man. But to just sit and look there and see the remains of someone who did so much at such a young age, it's really awe-inspiring. You can feel the energy there at the King Center. But there's something that I thought of recently about his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. And what I want to bring to your attention is the quote where he talks about this. "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." I want to stop there because this is probably one of the most famous portions of this speech. People talk about this all the time. They debate about this all the time. And back in the day, how I was growing up, that simply meant an equal society, right? Almost a colorblind society where who I was being was enough and you wouldn't make me lesser than you because of the color of my skin. That's where I grew up. I want to fast forward a little bit because I have another perspective on this. Because that way of being versus the way that I think now, I'm sitting down with my son having this conversation because we actually have 4 children. So that's relevant in my mind. And one of the things that he and I were talking about was about giving your best effort. And I don't know how this conversation came up about Dr. King before the holiday, but here's what was left with. What was left with was that if you are in a place where just being a young black man, or for my daughters, a young black woman, or Hispanic, or Asian, or whatever that thing is, if you're gifted to a position only because of what your skin type is, what a tragedy that would be. It's probably not what you're expecting me to say, right? But just think about what I'm saying. To my daughter, brilliant. My girls are amazing. My sons are amazing. They're amazing people. They care about people. They work hard. They do their best. These are all things that are below the skin. What a shame it would be for someone to not ever get to know that part of them because the only thing that they thought of them was, oh, well, she's a young black woman. She checks that box. Let's bring her on. God, that'd be terrible. I wouldn't feel good. I wouldn't feel good. Now, I know there's some people would be like, no, that's been done. Other people have done that forever. That's true. I got it. But remember what he was saying. Judged by the content of their character, not just by the color of their skin. You see, I hear that now very, very different than I heard before. I want to be judged by what I create, the content of my character. I want to be judged by who I am. I don't want you to just look at me and give me a fail or a pass just because of what I look like. I was having a conversation long ago with one of my kids' teachers, and I was asking, how are they doing? They said, oh, they're really just a great student. They're such a joy to have in class. And I said, okay, great. How are they doing? And they were talking about all these things, but they weren't really answering my question. And they made a slight comment that unpacked something for me. They said, you know, it's really great where students with different backgrounds can come into this class and all do their best. And I'm thinking to myself, different backgrounds. Well, everyone has a different background. But what did they mean when they said a different background? What did she mean? Oh, okay. Young black student. Okay, now take it for what it is. That's not the point. The point was this. I said to her before I left, I said, you know, I appreciate your feedback. This is really good for me. Here's something that's really important to me. What's really important to me is that my children are pushed to do their best. That's really important to me. What's important to me is that it's not looked at only about where they come from, though they come from a great home. That's there. But that, like, they're dealt with based on their greatest self, not just where they come from. Because when I was growing up, I had certain teachers that looked at me because I grew up in the hood, and that's their expectation. They saw a young black man, that's my expectation, hood kid, that's it. That's as far as he went. But I had this lady, her name was Sadie, and Sadie was tough. This lady was tough. Oh my God. Miss Sadie was so tough. She wouldn't allow for me to do anything less than my best. It didn't matter that I came from the hood, that I didn't have some of the educational, experiences that some other kids in the school had. It's not what happened. She looked at me and said, you're going to do your best. In other words, she spoke to me on the content of my character, not just by the color of my skin. She saw me bigger than I was. And I don't know that everyone has ever had a Sadie in your life that sees you bigger than you are, just because they expect more from you, that your color isn't a crutch, your socioeconomic background isn't a crutch, there's no crutches. I expect you to be your best. And because she expected me my best, I wrote papers I would have never written had she had a lesser expectation from me. I did better on tests than I would have ever done had she had a lesser expectation of me. She demanded from me greatness, and she accepted nothing less. And now that I look back on that person, probably over 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago, I realized that that lady was the embodiment of what Dr. King talked about. She wanted to work with me, and she judged me based on the content of my character, not on the color of my skin. How many people, look, it's easy for us to do, to just look at someone and we already have an assessment. And that's normal. You can't ignore what you see with your eyes. It just is what it is. However, to look at yourself and to see a crutch walking, that's a problem. To say, I didn't get that because I'm black, or I'm Hispanic, or I'm Asian, or whatever, that might be true. That might be true. But let me tell you something. That's no excuse to not keep going forward. That's no excuse to not keep doing your best. You could look back and of every situation be bitter, or you can move forward. No matter what you do, you just keep moving forward. You see, I want to be around people that are going to challenge me to be the best version of me based on the content of my character, rather than to be around people who soften me because they're judging me by the color of my skin. I don't need people like that around me. They're not doing anything for me. I don't need to have that mentality around me to be like, oh, well, he's this, or oh, she's that. Give him or her a pass. I don't want to pass. I want to do my best work. And if I deserve the spot, I want to be given the spot. And if I'm not given the spot, it could be politics, it could be racism, it could be whatever. But I am not going to go into a situation expecting something charitable just because of what I look like. I'm just not going to do that. And I don't want anyone to do that. I don't want anyone to expect more from other people just because of what they look like. Look, everyone, life is not always fair. It's just not. It's never going to be fair. Like, we live amongst other people. You're not fair to everyone all the time. I'm not fair to everyone all the time. However, there is something to be said about the expectations you place on yourself. That's important. Never want to be around people that give you a pass just because of what you look like. What they're saying to you, without really saying it to you, is, I don't think that much of you. Because if you're just looking for a man to do the job, any man will do. If you're looking for a woman to do the job, any woman will do. If you're looking for an Asian woman to do the job, any Asian woman will do. If you're looking for a black man to do the job, any black man can do. Like, if that's all you're looking for is to check a box, anyone who slides into that box will do. I want more than to be someone's checked box. I want to be someone who produces at a level where you can't deny my production. That's what I want. I want to be someone who, when I show up, an impact is so obvious that you can't deny me. And if you do, well, you know what? Sometimes life isn't fair, and that's just the way it's always going to be. But at least I'm doing my best effort. I don't want a charitable handout. I want to be judged on the content of my character, not just on the color of my skin. Happy MLK Day. And just remember, you can achieve anything you really put your mind to once you truly decide. Look at this man. This man changed the world, not America. He didn't just change America. He changed the world with words and deeds at such a young age. What if we all took on our lives the same way? Let's all live our lives to raise the content of our characters.
If you actually took time to learn about how incredible you were, nothing would ever stop you. See, the definition of sight is the faculty or power of seeing.